obvious 5-star rating, or would you be a liar?
Taylor Mannix. So like going from prime red to, I don't know, weird brother of prime red. Call 207-775-2217 or 1-866-811-9505. Good guy, my friend. I mean, brother is French. I don't know why I know that. I took 4 years of Spanish. You know hermano? Hermano is brother.
His brother is French. Hello, hermano.
Mannix begins now. You're going to fail and bomb and gag and fail and bomb. Yalla. Let's go. Good afternoon. Welcome back into Middays with Mannix and 6-3 WJJB, the Big Jab, Jeff and Taylor. And as we always do to start our final hour, we'll talk some football with the host of the Catch Up with Coach podcast and a former collegiate football coach himself, Malik Hall, joins us on the line. Coach, thanks for taking some time with us. How the heck are you?
Glad to be here, boys. Glad to be here. What a weekend.
What a weekend indeed. We certainly had some really, I think, good matchups amongst some teams that are looking to get into that college football playoff here. I want to start, though, with I say we'll go in the ACC here first because we were just talking a little bit off air. I thought for a while that 14th-ranked Syracuse was going to go to Clemson and pull that off, going into the fourth quarter with the lead. But the Clemson Tigers are still the Clemson Tigers, and they come from behind and get that 6-point win, 27-21.
You know, and they pulled DJ. And so when you think about what Clemson had to do to get out of this game, the backup, I think his name is Klubink or something like that. But needless to say, look, Syracuse has always battled the Clemson Tigers, whether Syracuse had a good record battling Clemson has always been the difference. And this one count. You had two undefeated ACC opponents coming in. And I don't know when the last time Syracuse was above the top 20 and undefeated playing Syracuse. So it was a telltale game for the Orange Man. I think they are a formidable opponent in the SEC this year. And I think Clemson has just enough juice to win out. But I think we're looking at a Clemson who has to win in a tight fashion with small margin of error, which we haven't seen in quite a few years.
Yeah, absolutely. And just keep it on the ACC because I think it's interesting now that Syracuse has one loss, Wake Forest still here at number 10. Whereas, you know, they entered this, they took care of business at Boston College. But I'm interested because down the stretch, the Demon Deacons are going to have a pretty interesting matchup. They're going to have Louisville, NC State, North Carolina, Syracuse. 3 of those teams are top 25 ranked. Do you think that now with Syracuse losing, and of course, I do think Clemson, I'm with you, Malik, they went out. But even if they went out and they have to meet, and it's going to be a tough one, obviously, but if they end up winning out and they hold that position, do you still think there's a chance that Wake Forest, if they get those 3 wins against ranked opponents, could be pushing for a playoff spot by the end of this thing when it's all said and done?
I agree 100% with you there, Tay. Like, I think Wake Forest is in the better position, barring that they've gotten their loss out the way, which was to Clemson. I mean, it was an overtime game. I think Wake Forest is peaking in the direction north to get into the playoffs. I think, yes, the ranked opponents that they do have, I think will be a test for Wake, but I think it'll be more of a test for their opponent. I think Wake is just clicking the defense. The quarterback over there is breaking all of the school records. And they have a 6'4", 215-pound ex-receiver that no one's really can stop. Clemson couldn't stop them. And so with the running attack, the quarterback, the receivers, and a solid defense, Wake Forest is the team to beat outside of Clemson, which will make for an interesting ACC title game.
Yeah, it could make for a real interesting game there. I want to turn to the Pac-12 next because we had a showdown of number 10 Oregon against number 9 UCLA.
and Chip Kelly could not go get the win at his old stomping grounds in Eugene as the Ducks prove their worth here, maybe as the top team in the Pac-12 right now with that 15-point victory.
A few weeks ago, we weren't sure what the Ducks were because of the loss to the Dogs, and UCLA was undefeated. And we marked this game with USC losing on top of. It seems to me that Oregon is the leader of that conference right now. And how about Chip Kelly going back to the old stumping grounds, and they gave him a dose of the old Chip Kelly ball. Like they did onside kicks, trick plays, reverses, everything to welcome Chip Kelly back home and send them back to LA with a loss. They had UCLA stifled. The quarterback couldn't get rolling. The run game couldn't get rolling. And they had UCLA on their heels from the start of the snap. And with those uniforms, those uniforms may have something to do with it. They memorize you know what I mean? And like, what is this? Is this pink, black? I thought y'all colors were green. And so added to the cute uniforms that they come out with, Oregon is the team that looks good and is seeming to play better than anyone else in the Pac-12.
Yeah, especially after the Trojans lost to Utah there the most recently, and last week they obviously had a bye this week. They're back at Arizona. Do you think we're kind of heading forward now, because USC will play UCLA on the 19th of November to kind of decide that second place spot at this point? I think obviously if Utah is able to win out too, that's a big thing, but they still technically have 2 overall losses, only 1 in conference hitting into USC. I mean, are we on a crash course right now for the Trojans and the Ducks in the Pac-12 championship?
Yes, all things, if everyone, as Bill Belichick says, do their jobs, that's what we'll be looking at, Tay. I really think so. And to be honest, I'm not sure that watching that USC team and watching the Oregon team, I know it's early, but I would give my slide to Oregon in that battle. And in the collision course, it'll be good for the Pac-12, being that after this year is going to reorganize itself. So it will be good to see that collide with USC and Oregon, considering everything that's happened thus far.
Yeah, absolutely should there. Let's turn to the Big 12, because there were a couple of big clashes there. I want to start, though, with the team that maybe looks to be asserting itself as the best team in that conference, and that's TCU with the 38-28 victory. I did get to see the end of that one. TCU with a nice showing at the end of that game to pick up the 38-28 victory. What did you see out of the Horned Frogs?
TCU, man, they're a sneaky team. We talked about it. They're very sneaky, because each game I've watched, they come out stumbling. They don't come out to a fast start. But the resilience of this crew, I mean, they go down 28 to basically 10 against TCU in the second quarter. And TCU put a drive together at the end of the half, and they sputtered with penalties. But they came out of that locker room in halftime and completely shut K-State down, which I didn't see coming, considering the quarterback was having all type of a field day from run and pass. And so TCU is a resilient and gritty team that I will not be surprised that they go ahead and run the table, but it'll be interesting to see them collide against Oklahoma State at some point, because that's the two that I would like to really see at the end, though Oklahoma State already have a loss. So it'll be to TCU. That's what I'm saying. So it'll be interesting to see that come back around in the title game, because right now, Oklahoma State is on fire and TCU doesn't look like they're holding up. And so I would love to see that as a rematch championship game.
Yeah, it should be really interesting, to say the least. I'll go to the SEC now, because I thought there was some big results in there. Yeah. One more importantly to me, to the despair of Notre Dame fans, Kelly's got LSU at number 18 and playing really well. Everybody's kind of laughing at the idea that they'd be able to take on the Ole Miss running Rebels, and well, they took care of business, and now we're in the top 25 for the first time.
Man, I felt the same way. I thought Juicy Kiffin, Lane Juicy Kiffin was back. And it's the, you're seventh in the country. Don't lose to a team you shouldn't lose to. And not only did they just lose, I mean, they got worked. I mean, they lost 20-45. The offense wasn't clicking. The defense couldn't stop them. And to think we were counting LSU out, but they could potentially run the table and put their bid in because they're in the SEC. And so it'll be interesting to see how that finishes. But I was shocked that Ole Miss gave it up to LSU. And unfortunately, that's been the Ole Miss curse. They have either a strong start and give it up late, or they have a strong finish and they gave it up early to where they couldn't get back in. And so this is that middle of the road week where if you can win in October, Coach Whipple used to say, wins in October gives you fans in November. Because in November, you already know who's in and who's out. So it's unfortunate for Ole Miss, but hey, let's see what Brian Kelly can get done now.
Yeah, let's see indeed. While the Alabama Crimson Tide, they look like they might be back again.
Yeah.
They rolled 24th ranked Mississippi State 30-6 as they remain at number 6 in the poll here, but Bama taking care of business at home, exactly what you wanted to see out of them.
Yeah, whoever plays Bama after a loss is – I feel for you because they're not going to make any of the same mistakes. You might not even see the same lineup for that matter, interior. And so anybody who has to play Bama after a loss, they're going to feel the fury of Nick Saban throughout that week and forevermore because – everyone that they play now, the margin of error, they only have one loss moving forward.
Yeah, well, I want to kind of keep it on here with the SEC and Bama because what's coming up, not this week, but on November 5th, Alabama and LSU will be playing. LSU coming off a bye week. I think that's really intriguing. Obviously, at 4-1, Alabama at 4-1, and you mentioned the two losses. Two losses to LSU, Florida State, Tennessee.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that that's an okay loss to have on your record. If LSU beats Alabama, which I don't think they will, but I'm just going to ask this just because I think it's fun. If LSU beats Bama, does LSU instantly, as you're kind of talking about here, catapult themselves because they'll be first in the West at that point in the SEC? I mean, we're talking about them in an SEC championship. I don't think they beat Georgia. But, I mean, if they, as you mentioned, kind of run this table a bit in the SEC West, I mean, could we be talking about LSU in a playoff maybe by the end of this thing? Again, there's a lot that has to happen, but just looking at it for what it is, and if LSU continues to play the way they are, they could end up in the first place of the West and playing for an SEC championship this year.
You hit it on the nose, and I'll also add, if LSU beats Bama, Bama's out of the championship game.
Oh, absolutely.
And so now you got to ask yourself, what if Bama's out of the championship game and all of the championship games that go up increase people's rank, like is Alabama out of the tournament? That's what makes the SEC unique. Two losses based on who and when can completely put you out or can completely put you in the conversation with the right wins at the right time. And so LSU will be juiced. They coming off the bye. They'll be healed. And I think is it at LSU or is it at Bama?
It is actually it's going to be at LSU in Death Valley, which I'll tell you right now, I was spending some time down there a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
With my buddy from the Army. They are insane in Northern Louisiana. Like this Alabama game is what they wait for all year. Like Alabama LSU is their Super Bowl.
And so you're right, Tay. If the teams are structured to where if you have to play at Alabama and Georgia and they're 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever rank they are, and you can get your playoff credit if you can beat them. Like it's earned credit. And if LSU can pull it off, they might close Alabama out of the playoff or make the playoff committee do something that no one wants to hear, which is almost 3 to 4 teams in the playoff that comes from the SEC. And so you're right. I'm happy you brought that up, because if it goes down this way, this would be a great conversation down the road.
Yeah, it most certainly will be if that does turn out to be the case here. Of course, we had a couple of the teams in the top 5 that were idle this week. Number 1, Georgia, and number 4, Michigan. Ohio State and Tennessee both taking care of business at number 2 and number 3. But looking ahead to next week there in the Big Ten, Ohio State gets their first real test, I think, as they're going to have to go to Happy Valley at Penn State, who's back on track after a win here. That is a crucial matchup, but I think we're really going to see what the Buckeyes are made of now.
I would say to you, honestly, you, Jeff, you know I'm a Michigan guy. The Buckeyes, I'm not necessarily worried about. I think the Buckeyes will run through the Nittany Lions, unfortunately. And it's Michigan that I'm worried about. Michigan can mess around like Michigan can be like Ole Miss before you even know it, right? Like, because, you know, we still got to play Michigan State, right? You still got to play the Illini, and they're getting a head of steam out of nowhere. And so, like, I don't expect Ohio State to lose to a team that needs to beat them, but I do expect, I do hope that Michigan does not drop the game, so that we can get to the end of the year and see an Ohio State-Michigan game that win, lose, everyone wants to see both of them undefeated and be a representation of the Big Ten and the Midwest in that playoff hunt. And so that's what we're shooting for, and I'm hoping for. But Ohio State will take care of the Penn State Nittany Lions. I don't think that will be a problem at all.
Yeah, well, I know we're talking about the Big Ten East a lot here with Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, but I don't want to sleep on a team that you brought to our attention, as you kind of mentioned them a little bit, fighting the line out of Illinois in the West. Do you think there's a chance that they, in the West, look, in the West is a lot weaker, let's be honest. Purdue, Nebraska, Wisconsin, it is not tougher than that. But obviously, if the Illini continue to go the way they're going to go, they're probably going to be representing the West in the Big Ten Conference Championship game. Do you give the Illinois a shot at either Michigan or Ohio State, or I guess Penn State too? We have to put them in there.
Sure.
To upset Ohio State, but do you give them a chance at any of those 3 teams that they could come and bring home the Big Ten title, or do you think that it's going back to the East no matter what? The team that I think the Illini can beat is Penn State. If Illinois beats Michigan, then you already know that's in the bag, even though it won't count towards Michigan in the Big Ten championship, and if they can beat Ohio State. But we're dealing with a lot of ifs. But my point, no, I do not think Illinois can beat Ohio State or Michigan in the Big Ten dance. However, I can see Illinois beating Penn State. If Penn State beats Ohio State and Michigan beats Ohio State, you know, a lot has to happen for Penn State to get in there, right? So they have to beat Ohio State, and Ohio State has to beat Michigan, because Michigan has the outright against Penn State. And I think the Illinois Fighting Illini can beat Penn State, but not Michigan or the Buckeyes. No way, Jose. Well, it should mention too, the Michigan and Illinois will play on the 19th of November, so we'll know a little bit about them. But I'm kind of with you. Like, I just was looking at for kind of what it was, and it's like they're up there, but are they really going to compete?
And the date you mentioned makes me a little worried for Michigan too, because it's the week before Ohio State.
You see what I'm saying, Jeff?
That's a tough back-to-back matchups for Michigan.
Yeah, because all of theirs are travelers. So they go Michigan State next week, trap game the week after, because they're looking over Illinois to get to Ohio State. And so for me, Ohio State is like, there are no trap games. Like, they know Penn State is Penn State. They got to beat Penn State. Michigan, to me, in the way they play the ball, Michigan plays ball. I love the way they play ball because they're running the ball. But if they figure out how to keep those running backs from going 100 yards apiece, now McCarthy has to make a play win the game with his arm, and we have yet to see him do that all this year. And so I believe that the Illini will try to force him to win the game. I don't think Michigan State can, but Ohio State definitely will put the press on to him.
Yeah, should be real interesting there. And I want to ask about one other game here coming up this week, just because it's always a big one. And you tend to throw records out the window when it's a rivalry. And of course, I'm talking about number 1 Georgia taking on Florida in the world's largest cocktail party there in Jacksonville. Do you think the Gators have a shot, or is this the Bulldogs?
This is the Bulldogs being a bully down there on that Gator. And because it's the world's biggest cocktail, I'm going to go on the limb and say there are going to be a lot of mad, drunken Gators down there because it's just not close right now. It is not close. Gainesville is not the Gainesville old. We've watched them all year. I have my mentors on that staff, and so I try to take it easy on the Gators, but I don't think that's going to be a close one. And so, pinkies up, Bulldogs.
Pinkies up, Bulldogs. I love it. Yeah, I think that is one of the coolest names for a big event too. Is like the cocktail party. But I'll bring it back and go local here while we cap it off. Like we always like to kind of touch on some of the local stuff around here, Malik. I will say Colby College improved to 4-2 with a win. Bates unfortunately fell a little bit short against Middlebury. And then, of course, I believe it was Bowdoin who lost, or excuse me, got a nice win.
Yeah,
Wesley,
that's a big win.
28-26. So,
guys,
what's going on there in the small college? I know I'm forgetting UNE. Sorry, UNE.
That's okay, because they played the 25th ranked team in D3 and lost by 43.
Yeah.
So, sorry, guys. But, hey, still get it back. We love those guys down there in Biddeford. But, yeah, Malik, any thoughts on the local realm here and what's happening?
Man, got something to say, guys. Bates, unfortunately, coming off a 2-game back-to-back trend win, having Middlebury come down. The game it was going good up until the second half, and some penalties just put the Bobcats in a position where they couldn't overcome it. And kudos to Coach Cosgrove over there. Those mules, man. I tell you what, coming off of the loss to Trinity, all they've done is just continue to get better and focus on who they have in front of them. And then you got Bowdoin, who beat a Wesleyan, who, by the way, Bates lost to. So it's competition, man. Right. So you it makes you think. I don't know, how do they do that? Can they do it 3-way? How do they split the CBB tie? I don't know the answer to that.
Sure, it just goes down as a tie if they all split it together, which is totally possible here with Bowdoin hosting the game against Colby.
I was going to say, yeah, that's the last game, November 12th.
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome, man. That's going to really be fun, too. So.
Look, guys, and that's the best part about, in my opinion, Maine football. You have so many Maine collegiate football teams that are playing in different leagues. And then you got a high school playoffs that's getting ready to kick off next week. So I'm excited. And, look, go Bobcats, go Mules. And I can't say go Polar Bears. I just can't do that.
That is a little bit of a bigger rivalry. That is a little closer than Waterville. But Malik, and we want to say we're happy to have you on board, too, for our state championship Saturday high school football coverage coming up on November the 19th as well. Looking forward to having you in the booth for a game. We're excited to have you back.
Can't wait. We should give out a turkey leg like they used to do in Detroit. And since Detroit's not going to win it.
That's what's happening.
Guys, take care, man. Keep it local.
All right. You got it. Thanks a lot. That's Malik Hall. He's the host of the Catch Up with Coach podcast and a former college football coach. We'll come right back. It's middays with Mannix and Mannix. We'll open the Joe Bornstein box office, too. 96.